for those of you who are familiar with some of Karen's work. And so we say good morning and welcome to the Monterey Center for Spiritual Living. For those who are joining us here in our center, those who are joining us on Zoom, and those who will be viewing via our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. We're continuing with our theme for the month, Pieces into Peace. And that's Pieces, P-I-E-C-E-S, into Peace, P-E-A-C-E. And our topic today is Waking Up to Oneness. I want to begin with a question for today. And the question is, am I at peace with everyone I meet? Am I at peace with everyone I meet? The unfortunate reality is not too many folks are. When we view the world through the lens of otherness or separation in pieces, it can be a scary place. We may not feel safe, we may not feel like we may feel that we need to protect ourselves. And we reach out from a place of defensiveness and fear. Ernest Holmes offers us this guideline in his work, World Peace is Not an Illusion. And he writes, you and I know that no matter how confused we are, if we're willing to get by ourselves long enough and think peace, we will become peaceful. Peace is the divine reality at the heart of God. And this is the goal that I believe all of us are striving for. Some of us are doing it more consciously and others are doing it more subconsciously, but it is the goal that we're striving for, and that is that connection where there is peace at the heart of God, which is the experience that and the place that we all arise from. Our annual global theme for Centers of Spiritual Living this year is a grand rising, and it's a waking up to the reality that each day, each opportunity is a grand rising. And so we experience a grand rising by compassionately seeing the oneness and good, which Emma Curtis defines as God. Emma defines God as good. When we see this in everyone, we can transform how we see and experience the world into one of peace and love. When we tune into the spiritual truth, we realize that we are one deeply, and that we can move beyond a sense of other, rising to the sense of oneness. And this is the place where we experience that peace that passes all human understanding. Embracing this spiritual truth allows us to recognize the divine potential in everyone. And so when we look into the eyes of another, we see God. We see the realization that a transformation has taken place, and this transformation enhances the way that we show up in the world. When we feel separate from one another, a practice that we can engage in is pausing for peace. And to practice pausing for peace, we compassionately ask ourselves, what story am I telling myself when I am not experiencing peace and feeling separate? We also ask, is this story true? And is this story real? And this pause for peace is not an extended period of time. It's a nanosecond where we tell ourselves the entire story about what is happening. How many of you have experienced that pause, whether it's a peaceful pause or a pause in your own life where you're taking in, receiving something that someone has said, and the whole picture of that story, whether it's complete or not, the whole picture just unfolds like in that nanosecond. When we intentionally pause, we open our spiritual eye to consciously choose what it is that we do want. And this allows us to take back our power and to choose peace. I offer this example of a situation and a story, is an experience that I continually have, and a story that I tell myself about this experience. So, here I am, 6 foot, 180 plus pounds, not a shrinking violet in any way. Okay, so I just want to give you a visual image of the physical presence, this bodysuit that I'm wearing. What I've experienced in both the corporate setting and spiritual settings and also in personal situations was not being included in an invitation or an event of various nature, even though I am physically present when the invitation is being extended. I don't know if any of you can relate to this or not, and then it's like, oh, well, Robert is standing right here. And then the expression will go, oh, by the way, well, you can come. Or sometimes the conversation will continue, even though I'm there and not visibly seen. And so my response to, oh, by the way, you can come, in my arrogance, and I preface it by saying, in my arrogance, I have thought and often asked, wow, am I an afterthought? And the question was asked with a lot of attitude behind it, just to set the stage for you. All of that Leo ego drama. As wisdom has kicked in, as I have engaged more deeply in my spiritual practices, what I do now in practicing the pause is just bless the situation and bless the experience and let it be, and say quietly to myself, I am choosing peace. There's no longer a need for me to react or to attempt to defend or say, hey, see me, I'm standing here. It's no longer important to me. But I offer that as an example of practicing this pause for peace. And it has not been an easy task, but I'm at a point now where it's like, oh, well, life goes on. Objectively, what happens in these experiences, not being invited or included, a story in the news, what a friend or a family member may have said, a meme on Facebook, whatever it is, has no meaning. It's just an event or a stimulus until we give meaning to it. And then our response is based on the meaning that we have made up. And we are meaning-making machines. I think we all agree with that. And I came across this quote by Viktor Frankl, which for me is another tool that I can spit in spiritual toolkit. Last week about spiritual toolkits, and I talked about it in the past. And our spiritual toolkit are those gems that we gather along the way that we place in our memory, in our entire being, that is our go-to response for when something is happening that is a little unsettling, or it may also be exciting and invigorating. It works both ways. But Viktor Frankl offers this. Between the stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our freedom and our power to choose our responses. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And so when we practice the pause, we slow down, we breathe, and we can explore the story that we're telling ourselves. Remember, it is all about us. And it's okay to make it about me, because what I am working on is remembering my oneness with all that there is. What is going on around has no impact. Well, yes, it does have the impact because it provides a stimulus. And then my response is the way that I choose to be in that particular moment. And so from this place of pausing for peace, we can move now into choosing our peace. Nelson Mandela wrote this in The Long Road to Freedom. If you want to make peace with your enemy, you have to work with your enemy. Then they become your partner. This is transformation. In a world where people choose their battles, let's consciously choose our peace. We've heard the definition of insanity, and that is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different results. I don't know about you, but I've got a lot of scars from banging my head against that visible and also invisible wall of saying, okay, if I do this one more time, then this is going to shift. If I do it one more time, it's going to shift. If I do it one more time, it doesn't shift. Finally, after the headache, it's like, what are you doing? Why are you banging your head up against this immovable object that is not going to limber up or soften or move in any way? Choosing peace allows us to notice old habit patterns of insanity that we have repeated many times. And now we can make a choice to change what we're doing and choosing peace. To choose peace, though, requires that we do a little inventory. And we ask ourselves, what is the outcome that I want from this experience? And there are two choices. There may be more, but there are two that I identified this morning. Is my response an argument and a justification for being right? Now let's be honest with ourselves. Being right can be so delicious. It can be so seductive. It can be so tempting. There's something about our egos that really enjoys being right. So be aware when you find yourself in these situations. And the second choice that I offer this morning is we can come together in peace and harmony. And I want to go back to Nelson Mandela, in this quote where he says, if you want to have peace, make peace with your enemy. And if you want to make peace with your enemy, you have to work with your enemy, and they become your partner. And some of you may remember the story that I shared about Nelson Mandela not too terribly long ago. But after he was released from jail, released from prison, and became the president of South Africa, he was walking with some of his soldiers, and they decided to pause for lunch at a restaurant. They went into the restaurant, and they were seated, and they had the menus had come, and they had placed their orders. So while they were waiting for their order to come, Nelson Mandela noticed a gentleman sitting alone at another table. And he said to one of his soldiers, "Go and tell that man to join us at our table." So the soldier went over and invited the man over to join. Well, as the story goes, the man had a very difficult time. He never looked at Nelson Mandela. He basically shook through the whole time consuming his meal. And when he was finished eating, he got up and left. And the soldier said to Mandela, "What was wrong with that man? He must really be sick because he trembled and shook the whole time he was sitting here." And Mandela said, "No, he is not sick. He was one of the guards when I was in prison, one of the ones that tortured me. And when I asked for water, he urinated on me and did all other types of things to me. What you experienced, what you witnessed was his being afraid that I would return to him the same inflictions that he caused on me." He said, "But that is not the way to peace. That is not the way to peace." This moves us now to Namaste. The divine in me recognizes and honors the divine in you. And usually this greeting is something that we establish at the beginning of a connection with each other. It's a starting point. But I'm putting it purposefully last in this talk because I think our two prior points, pausing for peace and choosing peace, serve as the foundation for namaste. It's like we got to do our own little internal roto-rooter work, if you will, to prepare to be in that place of namaste where we can come from the purity of our heart. Ernest Holmes writes this in our Science of Mind textbook on page 61. When we know our oneness with God and law, what a great burden is removed. Any sense of opposition is removed from the consciousness which perceives unity. Any sense of opposition is removed from the consciousness which perceives unity. And so I invite you to engage in a little exercise if you're willing. And I want you to, first of all, if you're willing and if you're comfortable, close your eyes or allow your gaze to soften. And I want you to imagine that you are participating in a Zoom event. And for those who have not had the experience of being on Zoom, think about Hollywood Squares. And this is how we often describe Zoom as a Hollywood Squares box. And so allowing the eyes to close or soften the gaze, go within. Just be at one with yourself. Consciously move your attention and energy to your heart space. Breathe into your heart and feel the divine within. With eyes closed, imagine a sense of oneness with everyone in the Zoom room. Imagine you are safe and imagine you are at peace. And now slowly open your eyes and look around the imaginary Zoom room from your heart center. Look into each other's eyes and feel the word namaste. The divine in me honors the divine in you. Feel the shift to oneness in the room and notice the sense of peace that is there. There's a thought leader that I have taken classes with. And on those Zoom calls, there may be as many as 200 to 300 people. And as part of the experience, part of the ice-breaking experience, if you will, in a group that large, what he invites us to do is to just make contact with, well, first of all, to scan the Zoom and, to acknowledge the people that are there. And, so we never know who we're looking, we know who we're looking at, but we never know who is looking at us because of the way the Zoom is set up. And then he invites us to identify one person, and then he offers an affirmation for us to say to that individual. Now, the individual may not know that we're speaking to them, again, because of the size of the audience, but it's a practice that serves as a connection and brings about a feeling of belonging within that experience. And this is what I wanted to share with you this morning. And so our experience of oneness, peace, safety, and the presence of the divine can be created in any setting we find ourselves in. This is the tool for our spiritual toolkit, to have something to fall back on or to lean into when we find ourselves in any type of a setting. And so wrapping this up this morning, I go back to our founder, Ernest Holmes, and he writes this in the little book, This Thing Called You. And he says, peace comes from a sense of union with the whole. Confusion comes from a sense of separation. And so when we intentionally wake up from the illusion of separation, we're having a grand rising into oneness. Unlike the fairy tale of Humpty Dumpty and his great fall, and the attempts to put the pieces back together, we can put all of the pieces, the P-I-E-C-E-S, of peace together by leaning into and living from a place of namaste, seeing the God in everyone that we meet. And another thought leader that I am working with said this the other night in one of our classes. It was had a very profound meaning for me, and that is anyone can take advantage of the grace of God. Anyone and everyone can take advantage of the grace of God. There is no separation. And so I invite us now to say our weekly affirmation together. I quiet my mind and rest in the stillness of divine love. Let's say that together again. I quiet my mind and rest in the stillness of divine love. And I invite us to pray together. And to establish the tone for prayer, I invite us to just take in a nice breath together, breathing in and breathing out. Allow that to be a heart connection with the divine. And in this place, bring someone into your heart with whom you are having a challenge, and breathe peace into the experience. See the divine in this person and know with me that there is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is good. That life is my life now, and it is the life of this beloved. And so with this declaration, what I know to be true is that when there is peace in my heart and peace in my mind, that all that matters is that the well-being of each and every one right here and right now. That's my focus, well-being. Knowing that as I speak joy and forgiveness and understanding and harmony and unconditional love into this experience and into all of my experiences, I am affirming that everything is resolved into the divine perfect order. And so I call to mind any past experiences that I can release them and let them go back into the ethers of nothingness from whence they came. And as they go back into those ethers, they just don't sit there and fester. They are transformed, reformed, transmuted, and come back as a higher vibration and energy of wellness and whole being and love and peace and joy. Everything that adds to the experience of living a life of oneness and wholeness, living in peace and harmony with everyone at all times and in all places. I speak my word this morning for those who are gathering in the name and nature of oneness and wholeness. Wherever the path is leading them, knowing that there may be points along the path where we intersect. And it's those connection points where we experience love and peace and joy and excitement. And we see into the eye of another the wholeness and their oneness with God. I speak my word this morning for those who are experiencing transitions in their lives. However those transitions may show up, it could be that a loved one, a beloved, has stepped off of this physical plane into the invisible, into this continuum called life, knowing that, as the Ernest Holmes says, the continuity of the soul is forever and ever expanding. So all that has taken place is that our beloved has put a period at the end of this chapter in this material experience and has turned the page into a new chapter of their divine destiny. We feel the absence. We feel the grief. We mourn the absence of the physical presence. And yet we have the reassurance that each time there is a memory of the beloved, that they live on in our lives and in the lives of our affairs. I speak my word this morning for those who are experiencing other transitions in life, however they may show up, knowing that as we pause, take that pause for peace, that the peace that passes all human understanding is what comes forth. This is what I am declaring right here and right now for myself, and I'm declaring it for all who are hearing this message, seeing this message, wherever it is, knowing that God is non-local, that the physical presence in this space is not a requirement for experiencing God's love, God's grace, and God's peace. And so for this awareness of truth and for so much more, I am eternally grateful for. I release this word now back into that law, which always says yes, and I just allow it to be. And if any of what I have said resonates with you in any way, let us affirm it together by saying, and so it is, and so it is. I just need to breathe into this moment. Breathe into this peaceful contents, this peaceful presence that is just really palpable in this space. I don't know if you're feeling it or not, but it's just a high level of energy and excitement for me this morning. It is now time for us to share in the law of circulation known as offering time. We are eternally grateful for the way that you continue to show up and support our spiritual community with your tithes, with your offerings, with your talent. We appreciate it. And we have an affirmation of abundance that I invite us to say together. I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And so it is. And for our viewers, and also for our congregants here, we have posted online the ways you may give. You may mail in your donations, and we appreciate the mail that comes in. I love to pick up the mail and find checks or other means of exchange in the mail. So our address is on the screen. You may text to give, and that number is 831-246-9694. You may also donate online, and our website is www.montereycsl.org/donate. So we invite you to share with us and allow us to continue to spread this message of love and peace and joy and forgiveness into the world. And so a couple of opportunities for engagement for our viewers in our virtual community. We are participating in the 100 days of mindful practice leading up to the election. This program began on July 28th, and it concludes on November 4th. And you may join at any time. And what you will receive is a voicemail message or a text message with an affirmative statement of a mindful practice for that day. And if you miss one, it's okay because they're repeated in 10-day cycles. And we say thank you to the Center for Spiritual Living Atlanta, Reverend Dr. David Alexander and his team for bringing this forward into our larger community. And we also, Unity World Day of Prayer. On September the 11th, you're invited to join Unity for the World Day of Prayer. And this year, the theme is Fueled by Faith, I Can Move Mountains. And this will be online. It's on Wednesday, September the 11th at 7 p.m. Central, which would be 6 p.m. Pacific. No. Let's see, it's Pacific, Mountain, and then Central. So it's 2 hours. Yeah, so it will be at 5 p.m. Pacific. I have to do these time conversions all the time. And I invite you to go to our website or to our Facebook page. Our newsletter is on our Facebook page, and the link to the Unity World Day of Prayer is in that link. Also on September the 11th is the World National Day of Remembrance and Service Day. And so we're encouraged to engage in some service project in our local community on September the 11th. And I plan to do that, and so our church office will be closed on this Wednesday the 11th, and I will be participating in a local event to honor the World Day of Prayer. And then on September the 22nd, for those of you who may be in the community, we are celebrating our renewal of licensing for our practitioners. And in our renewal of licensing, we're also honoring our own practitioner emerita, Connie Ziegenbein, for 55 years of service as a licensed practitioner. Yeah. What I will have for our local community is we'll have a little box on the hospitality table next Sunday for you to fill out any words of expression and appreciation for Connie. And for those of you who are viewing online, you're welcome to write something in, mail it into our address, 400 West Franklin Street, Monterey, California, 93940. And so with that, we say good morning to our YouTube and our Facebook viewers. Know that we love you, we appreciate you, and we thank God for you. And we invite you to join us next week as we continue with our September series, Pieces into Peace. And our theme is Om Shivanti, Om Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om is our theme for next Sunday. So we will see you at that time.